Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
The cars are challenging to drive like we thought they would be and like we hoped they would be. And the mid-quarter speed is way down. The straightaway speed is way up.
We've scrambled a little bit. I felt like we were better the second time out on the racetrack. Hopefully being able to get some more practice will be beneficial because we still don't really have a good idea of exactly where we need to be.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. It's a Friday, thank goodness. The weekend is here. One more weekend to get through, one more weekend closer to getting down to the serious business of football. In fact, we'll start getting a little more serious about it next week at SEC ESPN Media Days in Hoover, Alabama. We'll be there for that starting on Monday. And, of course, South Carolina comes in on Thursday. Then next week after that, got ACC Media Days, Dabo Swinney Media Session, and golf outings. So a lot of good stuff coming your way here on Sports Talk as we get into the hearts of the preseason for football now. Talking season, sort of getting towards the end of talking season, getting into the real football season, which is always a good thing. Be kind of strange at SEC Media Days not to have Steve Spurrier there. You know, he's been to more SEC Media Days as a coach, 23, than anybody else in the league. But unless he makes a special appearance at somebody's request, he will not be there next week, which he will be missed because, he was one of the guys that stirred the pot and always gave the media something to think about in most cases. For the most part, when you think about the head coaches in the SEC now, when they get up in front of the big room of media, most of them are pretty dry. Saban is very dry, but, he's the king. And so everybody wants to pay attention to the king. So he will draw his big audience. But Hugh Freeze is pretty good. He's got some liveliness to him. Just thinking around the league, Les Miles, he gets a lot of respect, and he can sometimes say some things that'll make your ears perk up a little bit. But by and large, he's not all that quotable at these things. So, I don't expect there to be any fireworks next week. I expect it to be pretty humdrum routine. But we'll be there to cover it for you. Of course, Thursday of next week is when the preseason ranking will come out. And I'll throw it out to you tonight. Where do you think South Carolina will finish in the voting in the SEC East? Anybody think they'll finish? Nobody, I think, would vote them inside the top 4, would they? Could they get to number 4 in the preseason voting? What do you think? What's your take on where South Carolina will be projected in the SEC East voting next week? 800-956-7266, the phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at Sports Talk SC. Friday edition of Sports Talk from Main Street, Columbia. Back in a moment. You can go. Phone number tonight here on Sports Talk is 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Phil Kornblut here tonight. Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes finishing up their vacations, and they'll be back with us next week. I'll be in Hoover, Alabama next week, Monday through Thursday for SEC Media Days. Carson Mason is here doing her thing as well. You can reach her at 800-956-7266 and say hello when you call in. So what do you think about the rankings for the Gamecocks in the SEC East next week when the poll comes out? You got to figure Tennessee will be ranked number 1 in the East. Then I think it will be – I think the voters will go with Florida, number 2. Georgia, number 3. Question is, after that, where do you go? You got the pool of South Carolina, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, and Missouri. I mean, none are particularly exciting on paper right now. I think you could legitimately say South Carolina at 4 and make an argument for it. That would mean you think South Carolina is going to beat Kentucky head-to-head when they play in Lexington. And, of course, you think they'll beat Missouri and they'll beat Vanderbilt. If South Carolina can take care of business with the lower echelon of the SEC East, of which they are a member right now, so if they can beat their brothers of lower echelon SEC East, win those 3 games, I mean, they'll have a chance. They'll have a very, very good chance at a 500 season in SEC play. With Gamecock fans, would you sign up for 500 season in SEC play right now? 4-4 in league play. And then your other 4 games, figure you can win 3 of those 4. That's 7-5. And a bowl trip in year 1 in Will Muschamp with a new quarterback, a new running back, new receivers, some new people in secondary, entirely new coaching staff except for one. Is that satisfactory? Is that and I'm kind of addressing Gamecock fans here more than Clemson fans right now because we've got SEC Media Days coming up next week. What's your over-under for a successful season this year for South Carolina? Is it 500 overall, 6-6, 7-5, 8-4? What's going to be acceptable? Muschamp has said the right things as he made the rounds in the spring. He talked about winning now, that he believes they have the talent to win the SEC East. And the way the SEC East looks, I mean, they're not going to win it. They can be competitive. It's too bad they're not better because the SEC East looks very winnable from several different angles. I mean, if you're Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, each of those 3 no doubt will go into the season feeling like they've got a legitimate chance to win the East. Now, I think Georgia's got some major question marks with the injury to Sony Michel. And how healthy is Nick Chubb? You know, he got hurt, tore his ACL in October. Now, you're asking him to come back in 11 months, which September would be 11 months from a torn ACL. That's asking a lot. Some people can do it, but not many. It's usually a much have than that to get back to where you were. And so now they're down. They're down 2, if that's the case. Sony Michel's going to be out possibly up to 8 weeks with that broken forearm. So that would take you 8 weeks. This is we're basically mid-July, so 2 weeks, 4 weeks. So you're talking about mid-September before he's ready to go. Probably right about the time. Let's see, when do they play the Gamecocks this year? No, it's in October this year. He'll be healthy by the time they play the Gamecocks. But up until then, Georgia's going to be skating on some thin ice at running back. And I don't think their quarterbacks yet. I know Fromm has got the great reputation. And people, but he's young. He's brand new. Is he the guy that can go in there and get it done? I don't know. I think Georgia's got some real question marks going into the season. And thus, I would hang my hat with Tennessee right now. And they got the veteran quarterback. They got the great running back. They still have good receivers. I like the look of their offensive and defensive lines. And they've sort of been building. They've been sort of gradually building to this point. So my vote would be Tennessee 1, Florida 2, Georgia 3. And then, I think Stoops, more than anybody else in the East, is on the hot seat going into this season. Somebody who has underachieved here in the last couple of years. Back-to-back 5 and 7 seasons, I believe. And now they're going to give the ball to basically a new quarterback, the kid from Kentucky, who's kind of got the hopes of the state riding on his shoulders, the kid that South Carolina recruited, and he ended up staying home in Kentucky. Very highly recruited, highly touted kid coming out of high school. They do have JoJo Kemp back. Gamecock fans don't want to hear that. They do have him back. So he's a weapon. But all that being said, I still hesitate to put Kentucky in 4. Thus, I would write the Gamecocks in at number 4, thinking that they're going to beat Kentucky. They're going to beat Vanderbilt. They're going to beat Missouri. Okay, so they're going to take care of their business in the lower part of the SEC East. They're going to win those 3 games, and then as far as the West is concerned, like Mike Morgan said last night, it's hard to disagree with him. How do you not pick Alabama? I mean, we talked about Alabama last year being a question mark because of their quarterback situation. Well, question mark again going into this year, but it really doesn't matter because they have so many other great parts on their football team. Now, I'm trying to think, have they resolved the issue with the offensive tackle from a few weeks ago? I don't think that's been resolved yet, as far as I know. They got to get that situation sorted out. But otherwise, they've got plenty of outstanding parts, great running back, couple of great receiver, well, a great receiver, and as we saw in the championship game, a great tight end. And the defense will be stout. So until proven otherwise, I would vote Alabama, one in the West. Probably go Alabama, Ole Miss, because I'm a Chad Kelly fan. I mean, the guy threw for over 4,000 yards last year. And, he's the type of guy that makes everybody else on the offense better, like Deshaun Watson does. I mean, he's got so much talent. He's got the arm, he's got the legs, he's got the macho, he's got that leadership qualities. Jump on my back. I like Chad Kelly, so I'll pick him second. Of course, LSU's got Fournette, and I got a feeling he's going to have a great year. Stays healthy, and I think he could have a great year. And I think their quarterback situation might be a little bit better too, a little bit improved at the quarterback spot. I might have to rethink that before I vote. I might go LSU 2 and Ole Miss 3. Okay. Then after that, I think I'm going to go Arkansas 4. I think I'll go Arkansas 4 because, Bielema has got his system in place, pound you, run the football, and he's got the people to do it. He's built the big offensive line. He's got a very Big Ten-ish looking SEC team there at Arkansas. So I'll go 4 with Arkansas in the West. And then Auburn, Mississippi State, probably down that way. That's kind of how I see it. What do you think? 800-956-7266, the number here on Sports Talk. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. Back in a moment. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. You ever say something and soon after you say it, you know that you made a mistake? In talking about Georgia, I got my quarterbacks mixed up. It's Jacob Eason, who is the freshman quarterback who enrolled at midterm that has Georgia fans excited. Jake Fromm is a quarterback who'll be a senior this year in high school who's already committed to Georgia. So I got my Jakes confused there. But even as I was saying, going back to the situation at quarterback at Georgia, it's still a little bit unsettled going into this season. You have Grayson Lambert, who started 12 games last year and was okay. I mean, against South Carolina, he was a Heisman Trophy winner. Remember that, 24 of 25. Bryce Ramsey's back. And then you got the freshman Jacob Eason. So their quarterback situation is still a little bit unsettled, but they do have some talented guys, no doubt about it. The question will be just what will they be able to do at running back, how healthy Chubb is going to be, and how long is it going to take for Sony Michel to get back healthy. Now, as far as some things to pass along to you, not a whole lot of news today. Things pretty quiet on this Friday as we settle in towards the weekend. You heard some comments from Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski in the opening of the show. No qualifying today at Kentucky because of weather, so they have set the lineup via owner's points, and that will mean that Kevin Harvick will be on the pole for tomorrow night's race. Brad Keselowski will be on the outside pole. Then it's Kurt Busch, Joey Logano, Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, and Denny Hamlin. They did get some practice in today amongst the rain, and Denny Hamlin was the fastest at 188.285. Jimmy Johnson next at 188.121. He did hit the wall in practice. Not sure if he had to go to a backup or not, but he did turn in the second fastest speed. Then it was Harvick, Ty Dillon, and Kyle Larson, the top five. Again, they're racing tomorrow night, Sprint Cup racing tomorrow night at Kentucky. Now, we had for you last night the standings for the Learfield Cup for college athletics, Learfield Sports Directors Cup. Now the Capital One Cup has come out, and Clemson finished fifth in the Capital One Cup final standings on the men's side. Stanford was number one, followed by North Carolina, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and then Clemson at number 5. Then it's Alabama, Oregon, North Dakota State, Villanova, and Syracuse. Okay, that's your top 10 in that category. Tell you a little bit more about the Capital One Cup. It's awarded to each of the best men's and women's D1 programs in the country. Points toward the cup are earned and tracked throughout the year based on final standings of NCAA championships and final official coaches polls. One winning men's and one winning women's program will be crowned after the end of the spring championships. And Capital One will award a combined $400,000 in student-athlete scholarships and the Capital One Cup trophy to the winning schools at the ESPY Awards in July. Give you a few more results from that coming up here in just a moment. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Friday night from our studios in downtown Columbia, where Columbia, they say, is famously hot. It was famously hot today and still is. I think it topped out about 104 when I was riding around downtown, at least on my car thermostat, about 104, and just enough humidity to break your back out there. I'm telling you, on the one hand, it's dangerous heat. On the other hand, if you can handle it, it's a good way to get in shape and get ready for the football season. I'm going to feel terrible for those football players in another 6 weeks or so in the heat of August with that equipment on and all this heat and humidity. It's going to be tough, so you better be ready. 800-956-7266, the number. Just wanted to finish up this info on the Capital One standings. So Clemson finishes number 5 in the country by this particular ranking. Charleston Southern was 42, and South Carolina was 64. Those were the teams in the state ranked inside the top 100. On the men's side, on the women's side, only team from the state ranked South Carolina at number 23. Southern Cal, the number 1 women's team, followed by Stanford, Penn State, and a tie between North Carolina and Syracuse. So that's your Capital One cut standings for this year, now that we've wrapped up everything in college athletics. Some more watch list information coming out today. Clemson's Dabo Swinney, one of 24 FBS coaches on the preseason watch list for the Dodd Trophy, something he won in 2011. And, of course, you know everything about what Swinney has done. He was named National Coach of the Year by 10 different groups last year. The other coaches on the watch list are Paul Chryst of Wisconsin, Mark D'Antonio of Michigan State, Larry Fedora of North Carolina, Kirk Ferentz of Iowa, Jimbo Fisher of Florida State, Mike Gundy of Oklahoma State, Jim Harbaugh of Michigan, Mark Helfrich of Oregon, Clay Helton of Southern Cal, and Tom Herman of Houston. What's Clay Helton done to get on that list? Just wondering. Also, Brian Kelly of Notre Dame, Jim McElwain of Florida, Urban Meyer of Ohio State, Les Miles of LSU, Jim Moore of UCLA, Gary Patterson of TCU, Chris Peterson of Washington, Nick Saban of Alabama. Why him? David Shaw of Stanford. Kirby Smart is on the list. He hadn't won a game as a college head coach. Bob Stoops of Oklahoma, Kevin Sumlin of Texas A&M, who's barely hanging on to his job, Kyle Whittingham of Utah. Interesting list. Also, several Clemson players on the Nagurski and Outland Trophy watch lists. Carlos Watkins for the Tigers is on both the Outland Trophy, which goes to the top offensive or defensive lineman, excluding defensive ends. That's the Outland Trophy. And the Nagurski Award goes to the top defensive player. Watkins is named on both lists. On the Outland Trophy watch list, also from Clemson, Jay Guillermo and Tyrone Crowder. And on the Nagurski watch list from Clemson, besides Watkins, you have Ben Boulware and Cordray Tankersley. Clemson, the only school in the nation to have at least 3 representatives on both lists. All right, very nice. Let's see. Anything else I want to tell you about here real quick? Told you it's a pretty quiet day, grasping at straws here for information, such as this. Jerry Palm, the bracketologist, who I guess had nothing better to do, put together his 64-team field for the NCAA basketball tournament for next year. I bring this up only because neither Clemson nor USC is on the bracket anywhere, which is a shame. I would think Clemson, you'd really have to think about Clemson making the tournament next year. South Carolina, maybe. I don't know. The Gamecocks lost so much with their departing seniors who were invaluable to that team. You wonder about their inside game. But anyway, his number 1 seeds right now are Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, and Villanova. Big surprise there. He does have the winner of the Winthrop-Hampton game, a play-in game, going in as a number 16 seed. So there you go. To the phones we go. Let's go to Ronnie in North Augusta. I know it's about your time of the year, my friend. Good to have you with us.
Won't be long. Hey, Phil, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. I hope you have gotten healthy and got your energy all saved up for this football season.
I'm improving, I think, Phil. I'm hanging in there every day. Good Lord, wake me up. I try to make a good day out of it.
There you go. Well, you sound good. You sound good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other night y'all were talking about how everybody was able to pull together, and pull for Coastal Carolina, and how good, everybody felt about doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And last year is the first time all these years I've ever done it, but I told my Clemson buddies in the Clemson, Alabama National Championship game, I said, well, I'm going to do it this year. I said, I'm going to pull for Clemson, and it did feel good. Oh, that's right. Alabama won, didn't it?
Why you want to remind him of that, Ronnie? Why you want to remind him of that?
Well, that's about all I can do right there. I got to keep them stirred up, Bill. Keep your phone lines right. Yeah, Bill. I say 7-5 this year because I swear I've watched a couple of replays from last season,
mm-hmm.
and if there has ever been a worse defense in the history of college football than what we had, I don't know, but I've seen it, Bill, and I think that changes everything. I think it changes your play calling. It's pretty tough to go into a game knowing that you've just about got to score every time you get the foot. I think it makes you take more risk, and I just if the offense can improve a little bit, I just don't. I just think the defense, just because they were so bad, they have got to be better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Feel okay, buddy. I'll hang up. Talk to you later.
Now, Ronnie, real quick, will you be happy with 7-5? Will you say, hey, that's a good start?
Oh yeah, Phil. I think that'd be great. I'd be tickled to death. Yeah.
Yeah, you take that. Okay. Thank you, Ronnie.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
Continued good health to you. Appreciate you calling in. So Ronnie would be okay with 7-5, which would mean a bowl game for the Gamecocks. Now the 7, of course, a lot depends on the 7. When you're a fan, there's 7 wins for South Carolina, and then there are 7 wins. And if one of those wins, of course, includes a win over Clemson, that makes it all the more special. I'm not sure that you can get that. I'll go back over the schedule again as to what I think is going to happen with South Carolina. I am convinced, and everything here is, I don't know why I'm convinced about certain things, but I'm just convinced that they'll beat Vanderbilt. I just think they will. So that's 1. I don't think they'll beat Mississippi State down there, but I think they'll beat East Carolina at home, so that's 2. I think they'll beat Kentucky. I don't know why. That's 3. I think they'll beat UMass. I know why. That's 4. I think they'll beat Missouri. That's 5. I think they'll beat Western Carolina. That's 6. So there you go. That's 6. Now you just got to find one more to get to that 7th win. Of the games I haven't mentioned, Texas A&M at home. You talk about somebody on the hot seat. That's Kevin Sumlin. Now, last time Texas A&M came to Columbia, I mean, they treated the Gamecocks like a rag doll out there. Remember, the Gamecocks made the quarterback, who's no longer there, the front runner for the Heisman Trophy after the first game of the season. That was a miserable night for South Carolina. And Texas A&M has gone through some quarterbacks. They have some unsettled issues there, but they have talent. But you get them in Columbia. Can you beat them? Then you get Georgia in Columbia. Can you beat them? Then you get Tennessee in Columbia. Can you beat them? I mean, the Gamecocks, to get to 7 wins by my formula, they just need to win one of those 3 home games right there. You would think that's possible. Probably not going to go to Florida and win, and probably not going to go to Clemson and win. So those 3 home games, Texas A&M, Georgia, Tennessee, you win one of those, do what else I said, you're going to have 7 wins, and you win 2 of them, you got 8. Back in a moment. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We'll give you recruiting coming up here in just a couple of minutes. If you want to join us, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter, you can follow us on Twitter as well, @SportsTalkSC. Lines are open if you want to join in on the program here tonight on Sports Talk. And we'll do recruiting coming up for you after the next break, so stay tuned for that. Braves tonight open a series in Chicago against the White Sox. They stayed overnight after beating the Cubs last night in a makeup of a rainout from April. Braves won in 11 innings by a 4-3 score. Cubs have all of a sudden kind of come back to earth. I think they are 3 for their last 10, 3-7 in their last 10 after last night's loss. So it's been a little bit of a rough spot there for the Cubs. They were playing at such a high level and getting such great pitching. You knew at some point in time they're going to have to kind of back up a little bit, and indeed they have. They still have a very, very good record. If you're just joining us once again, qualifying tonight at Kentucky rained out, even though, well, I haven't checked in a while. They were able to get on the track some today and had planned to get back on the track later this afternoon. They just weren't going to do qualifying tonight. So the pole position is set by and the rest of the starting lineup set by owner's point. So that means Kevin Harvick will be on the pole with Brad Keselowski starting second, followed by Kurt Busch, Joey Logano, and Carl Edwards. We'll talk more about racing at Kentucky and NASCAR in general, the full Monty on NASCAR coming up at the bottom of the next hour. They've got new pavements at Kentucky, and they've got a new aerodynamics package, the new, I think it's the lower downforce package that they are using at Kentucky. And so from listening to what some of the drivers had to say today, especially what Brad Keselowski had to say, he really liked the way his car was feeling. He really liked the way the new aerodynamic package made the car ride and the way it handled. So should make for some good racing with a new surface there at Kentucky, should make for some good racing. And remember, they're racing tomorrow night. Another reminder for you, commencing on Sunday at Heathwood Hall High School, it's the first day of the South Carolina Pro-Am. So that will be a lot of fun, of course. Many of the top eligible college basketball players from around the state of South Carolina will be participating. Several Gamecocks in particular are spread out among the teams. You got players from, I see a former Auburn player. You got some players from some of the smaller colleges as well. I'm looking, I see Wofford represented on the rosters, Limestone, SC State. Looks like no one from Clemson signed up, though. No Tigers are participating in the South Carolina Pro-Am. It's the brainchild of the captain, Kerry Rich, and he has done a tremendous job of maintaining this league and getting players and sponsors and coaches involved. And if you need that basketball fix in the middle of July, this is it for you. And so, you know, is it great team basketball? No. It's a lot like an all-star game. A lot of offense, not so much defense. I guess when the games get down to the final minutes and you get serious about trying to win, they play a little more defense. But basically you get to see the skills of the players, their shooting skills, rebounding, block shots, running the floor, that kind of stuff, ball handling. And it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun to go out and watch those guys run up and down the court. So that begins on Sunday, and they'll have games. I think they play 3 games. I don't have the schedule right in front of me. I think they play 3 games a day when they have it on a Sunday. I think they play like 3 games. And so you got a bunch of hours of basketball you can go watch. Now, this weekend, it's been going on this weekend down in the Augusta area, you got several AAU tournaments going on. Of course, you got the Peach Jam. You've got the Adidas event. And I was just reading, and it certainly seems like one of the players who is tearing it up, and somebody, of course, will keep an eye on in recruiting. And from what I've read so far at Peach Jam, he has been one one of the standout players, and that is Schuler, Devontae Schuler from Irmo. He's at Oak Hill Academy now, but he apparently is playing extremely well at Peach Jam so far in terms of both scoring and distributing the basketball. The reviews on him from the people there who've been tweeting about it so far, reviews on him have been very, very positive. All right, we'll hit a break and come back with the recruiting news on this Friday coming up. Okay, to the recruiting report tonight here on Sports Talk. First of all, defensive back C.J. Avery from Granada, Mississippi, spent 3 days at a Clemson camp in June. Left there with the Tigers #1 on his list. At that time, he planned to be back for the All-In Cookout July 22nd, but he said last night his parents can't make it, and so he can't either. He is going to Florida State the week after next and to Mississippi State for a camp. He'd also like to get to Auburn in early August before practice. He's had a top 10 of Clemson, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Notre Dame, Louisville, Tennessee, Michigan, Alabama, Cal, and Auburn since early June. That hasn't changed, but it soon will because he plans to cut the list to a top 4 or 5 before the season. Talks regularly with Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables, who tells him, of course, they like him. He's high on their list. He said Ole Miss, Mississippi State, along with Auburn, Louisville, and Notre Dame, are also making a strong push. He has also been to Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Alabama this summer. He is graduating early. USC, Duke, Virginia Tech remain the top 3 with running back Jalen Holston. Stockbridge, Georgia, the Gamecocks have him coming in for a visit July 22nd. Of course, that'll be critical for them as they try to bring in a second running back in this class. He was at USC for a camp last month. He's also been to NC State, Duke, Virginia Tech, Kentucky, Georgia, Tennessee, and Auburn. And he's going to North Carolina July 16th. Talks regularly with USC recruiters Bobby Bentley, Brian McClendon. And he said that they want him to come to campus again, see it for himself. And he said, actually, they want me to commit. And he said it could be possible. I feel like they can use me a lot, he said. He's looking to make his decision in August. Oklahoma commitment, defensive back, Trajan Bandy of Miami. He's at the opening. He told 24/7 Sports, while still a good, solid commitment to the Sooners, he will take visits to USC and Miami this fall. Defensive lineman Neil Farrell of Mobile, Alabama, has put out a top 6 in no order: USC, Michigan, Alabama, Florida, Southern Cal, and LSU. He attended a USC camp last month. We've talked about defensive end Michael McDaniel from Loganville, Georgia this week, told you what he told us directly about what's going on with him. J.C. Sherbert from the Big Spur today wrote that, according to his sources, South Carolina is not a place that is not an option for McDaniel any longer. At one time was. He says his sources says now it's not. So draw your own conclusions. The player said that he talked to Muschamp on Monday, and he said Muschamp told him he was a take, and that Muschamp told him that he wants him. And now J.C. Sherbert reports his sources say otherwise. So we'll see what happens there. But that's both sides of the story, one coming from the kid and one coming from some other sources. So we'll see what eventually works out for him. And that will do it for recruiting. Don't forget to check it out on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter. Use the hashtag STRecruiting. We'll continue to report on things over the weekend and, of course, into next week as we go to SEC Media Days. Top of the hour, we'll be back.
From Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on this Friday night. Phil Kornbluth here from our studios in downtown Columbia. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Coming up in this hour of the program, Monty Dutton will be here. The full Monty on NASCAR. We'll be talking about what's going on at Kentucky and other issues related to the NASCAR scene, but primarily the racing this weekend at Kentucky. I think it's going to be a very good race tomorrow night with the new surface and the new racing package, the aerodynamic package they have in place for Kentucky. Coming up after the break, our old buddy Bert Tremblay will be here to talk about this year's edition of the South Carolina Coaches for Charity event, which will be in Greenville this year, a couple of weeks. And it's going to be a little different in that you won't have Steve Spurrier, have some new faces mixed in there this time around. So he'll tell us more about that. One thing that hasn't changed is that Deshaun Watson's going to be honored. Seems like he's honored everywhere around the state, every time there's some way to honor him. So he'll be there at the Hyatt Regency to be honored by the group. Mike Ayers will be there, Bruce Fowler, Brent Thompson from the Citadel, Buddy Pugh from South Carolina State, Will Muschamp, Dabo Sweeney, and, of course, Fisher DeBerry heads it up. Coach DeBerry, we'll talk to him next week about this event and how it continues to grow in the various states where he stages this event and where the money all goes. And we'll talk more with Bert about that coming up as well. So if you haven't made plans to attend this on July 26th, in Greenville, make your plans to do so. The event starts at 6 o'clock with a VIP reception, entertainment, and silent auction. And then the dinner program is from 7 to 9. You'll hear each of the coaches speak. There'll be the coaches will form kind of like a panel. They'll take questions from you. There'll be a live auction as well. So it's a great event for a great cause, and Bert will tell us more about that coming up in just a little bit. The U.S. Women's Open going on, and we've got second round action today. Let's update the leaderboard for you. Of course, they're playing out west, so everything's a little bit behind here in the east. But we do have somebody in the clubhouse with the lead, and it is Sung Hyun Park with a 66, 8 under par. Sung Hyun Park. Miriam Lee on the course at -7. Amy Yang and Kelly Tan at -6. Michelle Wee, she's 5 over. Austin Ernst from Seneca, 5 over on the tournament. Lauren Stevenson from over in Irmo, former Clemson golfer, she finishes with a 75 at 8 over par. Back in a moment. Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us wherever you happen to be dialed in around the state. Let's welcome in our good friend Bert Tremblay, who always joins us leading up to the annual South Carolina Coaches for Charity event put on by the Fisher DeBerry Foundation. Bert, good to have you with us. Can't believe that another year has passed, and here we are again.
No kidding. Not only has another year passed, but we're coming up on our 7th annual South Carolina Coaches for Charity already.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And you know what? You're going to miss some people, but you got some new people coming in.
That's right. The first 6 years have been in Columbia, and this year we decided to make the move and give it a shot in Greenville. So we'll be up there on July 26th. It's at the Hyatt downtown. Great property. And we're also welcoming in a couple new coaches. Of course, new coaches at the Citadel and Coach Muschamp at South Carolina.
Yeah. And you're going to miss Steve Spurrier, huh?
That's right. He was a joy to have, a great pleasure to have up on stage. He could certainly keep everyone entertained. He was just awesome. And watching him and Coach Sweeney together was really something because, when they're together, just like all the coaches, they're actually, close. They're good friends. They're all in the same profession, all part of the same fraternity. And they just get up on stage and have a great time together. Rick Henry is still our MC. He's going to make it up to Greenville and kind of host us and do the coaches roundtable with all the coaches on stage together again.
Why the decision to move it to Greenville? Do you think it got a little bit stale in Columbia and you just wanted to try something new?
Not really stale in Columbia. I mean, the event's just been growing and growing. We were at the convention center last year, but with 3 schools up in that area, of course, you have Clemson, Wofford, and Furman.
Mm-hmm.
We had actually been talking about it for several years, about the possibility of moving it for a year, then maybe going back and forth. So we'll see how this year goes first in Greenville.
How's the response been so far as the word's gotten out about the event and people start to make their plans?
It's been great. It's been great. Of course, you got, Clemson, that was just in the national championship game, so there's a lot of excitement surrounding the program. And anytime Coach found, lots of people want to be around him and support him. The other good thing is we just made the announcement today that Deshaun Watson is coming.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Coach Sweeney is going to honor him as his 2016 Jerry Richardson Community MVP for all of his work off the field.
That's terrific. Can't think of a better guy for it. What about South Carolina's or some of the others who will be honored? Have you gotten any of those names yet?
That's right. In fact, Sheldon Brown, former Gamecock player and NFL player,
Mm-hmm.
is going to be Coach Muschamp's first community MVP. And he's done a lot to give back within his community and, of course, a Gamecock legend. And so, he's going to be Coach Muschamp's honoree this year. And for some of the other coaches, it's, in fact, Coach Pugh down in Orangeburg, it's the Turville family. And, of course, they've done a lot for South Carolina State.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just kind of other people from around the state for the other coaches. We don't have quite all the community MVPs yet.
Sure. I understand. Talking to Bert Tremblay with South Carolina Coaches for Charity. For somebody who might be listening for the first time and wondering what this is all about and why the coaches do this, give us the background.
Sure. It's a charity event. It's a one-night deal every year. It starts with a 1-hour reception with some past hors d'oeuvres and drinks and music and a silent going on. Then we start the dinner program. And the 6 coaches that are involved are the head football coaches from South Carolina, Clemson, Wofford, Furman, South Carolina State, and the Citadel.
Mm-hmm.
And so those coaches all choose a charity that benefits from their participation. So it all goes through the Fisher DeBerry Foundation. So all the ticket purchases and the sponsorships are tax deductible. And you just get to have a very nice, fun night with some of your favorite coaches.
Yeah. And from having been there for each one, I can tell from experience that the crowd, the people who are there, they get a chance to get up close with these coaches, meet and greet, ask them questions in person. It's a real opportunity to pick out your favorite guy. And if you get, depending on the crowd around him, you get a chance to rub elbows a little bit.
You really can. It's a very unique experience, and a lot of people don't even realize that until they actually get there. And they can walk, right up to their favorite coach, say hello, say thank you, say congratulations, whatever they'd like. And the coaches are extremely accommodating, very gracious, It's a fun night overall. And of course, the bottom line is that a lot of kids are benefiting from the event. All the coaches have their own charity, but the other big beneficiary is the Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And a big portion of the night's fundraising goes to sending kids from single-parent families to FCA summer camps.
That's terrific. Now, do you still have a room for people to get involved, to get tables, to get individual tickets? If so, what should people do?
Sure, we do. It's filling up quickly, but they can go to southcarolinacoaches.com.
Mm-hmm.
They can get more information there on the event. They can purchase a ticket, purchase multiple tickets, or even a sponsorship where they can sit closer towards the stage, be closer to the coaches, and have some recognition for their group, organization, or company.
That's terrific. And again, it comes up on the 26th this year at the Hyatt in downtown Greenville. Beautiful building, beautiful location, and the accommodation should be outstanding. And we will have Fisher with us next week, and we'll talk to you again leading up to this thing.
That sounds great. The other cool thing, one last thing real quick on the evening is we believe this is the first public event with Coach Sweeney and Coach Muschamp since Coach Muschamp got to Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
And having those two guys on stage together should be very entertaining as well.
Okay, so I think you've got to do something special. I think maybe, let me think. How about an arm wrestling contest?
I'm sure there's a lot of fans that would love to see that one.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have some sort of competition between them to kind of get the rivalry going, you know?
That's right. But if you throw in the other coaches, I think Coach Ayers might have a bit of an advantage on that one. He's a big guy.
Nobody wants to tackle him. I guess now with Spurrier stepping aside, that Coach Ayers becomes the dean. Age-wise and experience-wise, he becomes the dean of South Carolina coaches. Well, he was already the dean in terms of experience and in the state, but
That's
I guess
right.
age-wise, he probably becomes the man now.
That's right. He's awesome. All the coaches are just a blast to work with. They get to, it's a night for them to show their hearts and be able to give back to their communities that have given so much to them.
Well, it's a lot of fun, and it's also kind of the unofficial start of football in our state because it's just a few days after that they're all going to be, getting down and getting in practice. So it's kind of like their last major social event publicly before they go to work.
It really is. It's the kids report literally. Sometimes it's the next day, sometimes it's a couple days later. But this is really their last night to focus on anything outside of football for several months.
Well, we look forward to it, and we thank you. We'll talk to Fisher next week, and we'll talk to you again as well.
Thanks, Phil. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Bert. Good talking to you. Bert Tremblay, South Carolina Coaches for Charity, coming up on the 26th in Greenville. And if you've never been, and since it's in the upstate, a bunch of you up there maybe never felt like making the ride down to Columbia for it. Well, here's your opportunity. It's right in your backyard, and it's well worth it. It's well worth it. Go to the website. You can get the information on it as far as the breakdown on the ticket prices and sponsorships and all that kind of good stuff. And just keep in mind that everything goes to some great causes, individual charities. You heard him talk about the FCA charity that they have. So it all goes for a good cause. So if you want to get a real good start to your football season, that certainly will be it. And thanks to Bert for being with us tonight here on Sports Talk. All right, let's see. I wanted to pass along to you baseball. We're just getting underway. Several spots around the country. No afternoon baseball games today. Washington and the Mets are in a delay up in New York. Looks like Matt Harvey is done. Going to have season-ending surgery. So I think it's on his shoulder. Is that where the problem was? I think it was a shoulder. Matt Scherzer is going to replace Steven Strasburg on the National League All-Star roster. So that's one power arm for another. Let's see. Underway, the Cubs and Pirates are scoreless. The Angels have a 2-0 lead on the Orioles. Tigers and Blue Jays are scoreless. The Marlins have a 1-0 lead on the Reds, and the Indians have a 2-0 lead already on the Yankees. Tampa Bay and Boston scoreless. Back in a moment. Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on this Friday night. I mentioned this Capital One Cup standings thing as, just throwing it out there. And I've gotten some tweets from some Coastal people saying that Coastal is ranked tied for 8th in this thing. There must be a no? Okay. Yeah. I don't know. The standings I'm looking at dated June 3rd. Now, obviously, that was before the College World Series was over. And I don't see a more updated stand. I'm looking on the website, Capital One Cup. Maybe I need to click on this. No? Does that do anything? They do have North Dakota State in there at number 8, which is an FCS football program, as was Coastal. Maybe that national championship propelled Coastal up there to number 8 as well. But I'm not doubting you. I just don't see it on their website. So I'll take your word for it. How about that? Thank you for tweeting that into us. I'll take your word for it. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Checking out some other stuff on Twitter from the last couple of days. Just seeing what people are talking about. Some folks are excited about the possibility that defensive back Trajan Bandy is going to visit South Carolina in the fall. Good player, committed to Oklahoma from down in Miami. So we'll see if the Gamecocks can do something good with him. Dens Fans Forum, they liked our interview with Brett Harker, the new baseball coach at Furman. And they write that Dens fans, D-I-N-S, Paladin fans, they just shorten it to Dens. Dens fans getting more and more excited by the minute for baseball. Let's see here. Hashtag, no, I'll just read the other name. Vote Petey. Hashtag Vote Petey. Whatever happened with Stephen Davis Jr.? As far as I know, nothing. He's not announced anything about where he's going. Maybe it hasn't been resolved yet, but he hadn't said anything. Have tried to reach him. No luck in doing so. So we're still kind of in the dark, waiting on him to decide on what he's going to do, or at least announce what he's going to do. And let's see, got a lot of likes here, a lot of retweets, a lot of new follows. We thank you for that. Make sure you follow us at Sports Talk SC on Twitter. Brandon writes in after our interview with Gary Gilmore. Gary Gilmore is as humble as they come. I would agree with that. He is a grateful, humble, but confident baseball coach. He's never taken a back step from anybody, but he appreciates everything that he's now earned. We'll be right back. Time now for the full Monty on NASCAR here on Sports Talk as we go racing this weekend for the 6th time at Kentucky. And we welcome in for the full Monty on NASCAR, our good friend, our NASCAR expert, knows the sport inside and out. Most importantly, he knows the personalities inside and out. Monty Dutton of MontyDutton.com. Monty, how are you?
Great, Phil. Nice to hear your voice.
You too, my friend. You too. So rain's going to wash out qualifying, which would have been going on about now. And they're going to go with the owner's points. So Kevin Harvick is 1 and Brad Keselowski is 2. I listened to some of Keselowski's press conference today as well as Harvick's, but Keselowski in particular was talking about the track and the new aerodynamic package and all that. He seemed to be very pleased. And is that the feeling you think throughout most of the garage, that this is a good package, good pavement, a good combination?
Well, I think that there probably will be some, I don't know, sort of adjustment. As you know, new asphalt often doesn't perform as well until it gets some wear and tear over several years. And so I think the idea of make the racing better, I think it'll probably get better after this one. And the other thing is I think there's a certain amount of I think it's going to be difficult to pass. It appears to be hard to drive in a high groove, but it's also going to be pretty perilous. And I think that you may well see a good many people sort of spinning out for no apparent reason. I think there may be. So I think it'll be an eventful race. It's probably a track that'll produce better races next year and after that.
What are you hearing on the tire compound that Goodyear brought? They had a tire test a little ways back, I think. And have you heard much comment about the tire and what they did for this race?
Well, I think that that they changed the compound to make it a little bit more durable because they're worried about failures. And so I think it's a little bit harder than what they wanted to. I think that will do the same thing that I said. I think it'll be perilous, but it'll make passing pretty hairy.
This track at Kentucky, this is year 6 of racing there. And I don't know, has it developed any sort of a character to it? Or is it too young in the process to have a reputation as certain tracks do around NASCAR?
Well, Kentucky Speedway is a track that sort of botched its golden opportunity because they had a terrible time the first race that was held there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't leave the track till 4 a.m. and was in bumper to bumper traffic. It was nightmarish from beginning to end because they weren't ready. And so I think that track bore a burden because they have a huge crowd and they haven't had near the crowd. I think there's a certain backlash by the fans that track is still trying to overcome. I thought, I like Kentucky. It's a good area. It's I think it's a place that the people probably deserve a track. But I think it's sort of like if you open a restaurant, you'd better have it right. The doors open because most people don't complain. They just don't come back.
Yeah. Yeah. And reputation, word of mouth spreads and people get turned off. What did you think of last week at Daytona? Keselowski coming away with his 3rd win of the season. What did you think of the way things developed there and how that race played out?
Well, I think that it goes to show you, I often complain about how people always overreact about everything. That at any given time, the best team that everybody says is 10 times, like say the Warriors, they're not above everybody else as it seems. And I think that sports writing and fandom alike, which we reflect, is based on sort of wildly overestimating everything. So I think that the significance of Daytona is that Keselowski had won 4 races at Talladega. He's a very good plate driver, but he hadn't won at Daytona. And he wins Daytona, and all of a sudden people say, wait, in the last 7 years, he's won 2 more plate races than anybody else. And so I think that sort of conspired. He did play his cards beautifully. He's very good at anticipating which line's faster and where to position himself and blocking just right and things of that nature. But I think the timing was bad because every time you go to a plate race, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s fans sort of feel like, oh, this is our week.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had a miserable time in the first 3 races this year. And in fact, the second thing that happened after Daytona was that people woke up and for the first time they thought to themselves, wait a minute, Junior might not make the chase. Now, I think he is. But his position is he needs to win a race. And right now there are 11 winners if you assume Tony Stewart will stay in the top 30, which I think most people would. And he's 13th in the points. And Stewart's not going to be in the top 16. So, in effect, he's 13th in a current pool of 15. As long as he doesn't win a race and someone who hasn't won yet does, say a Ryan Newman, say a Casey Kane, say anybody that hadn't won, he's the most likely. He's the biggest name that hadn't won a race yet this year. But there are others, and every breakthrough puts him in a little bit more of a corner. So it's getting to the point where it seemed a foregone conclusion that he would make it on points alone. And right now it's sort of like increasing the urgency that he needs to win.
Yes, I think you make that point very well. The one thing about this track and maybe who you want to look, there's only been 3 winners of races at this track. Keselowski's got 2, Kyle Busch has got 2, and the other one goes to, it's slipping my mind now. Matt, help me. Who got the other one? Matt Kenseth. Matt Kenseth got the other one. So anyway,
I'm sitting here. Let me tell you something, Phil.
Yeah.
We had a big storm here. There's a tree down in my backyard. My direct TV's out. I had power out for 12 hours. I am not as sharp as I might normally be on a Friday evening.
Hey, neither am I. But then again, when are we anymore? But what I was going to say is you got Keselowski coming off a win and now going to a track that he obviously likes and performs well at. He's really got a chance to pad, maybe even to pass Harvick, take over first place in the standings, but really to get to 4 wins at this point in the season would be very impressive.
Yes, that would make him become the guy to beat in the chase. Like for instance, until all of the theatrics and fireworks that happened at the end, Keselowski is starting to occupy the place that his teammate Logano was in last year. Logano has his win; he's in there. But as far as this weekend is concerned, it just seems to me that when conditions change, like the reconfiguration a little bit and the repaving of a track, it just seems that at this point in NASCAR time, that the Joe Gibbs team and the Toyotas adjust more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in recent weeks we've seen Ford surge up the front because they've sort of overcome the disadvantage. But it seems like to me that the team that at the get-go, a word I hate, the Toyotas seem to have the edge at first anytime conditions change.
Do you have a pick then for tomorrow night? Is it Keselowski, maybe the odds-on favorite, or do you like somebody else? Got about 40 seconds.
I think I would pick Busch under normal circumstances, but I think that I'll go with Carl Edwards this time because he's right there too.
Yes, he is. He's had a very good year and some very strong runs. So you like Carl Edwards. Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
You're welcome, Phil.
Monty Dutton, the full Monty on NASCAR, coming to us from the dark, apparently. Not in the dark, but from the dark. Yeah, we did have a storm come through Columbia last night. It rained buckets for about 15 minutes at my house, and that was it. But I was thankful for that because, boy, did we need the rain out that way. And I guess it must have come through Clinton pretty good, too, with a pretty strong wind. Got to be a tough wind to knock down a Monty Dutton planted tree, I can promise you that. We'll be back. More sports talk in a moment. right. Well, we've just about had it for this week, to be honest with you. It has been a long, hot week. And I think between the two of us, Carson and I are just about both fried and done for the week. But we're going to make it through the final 12 minutes here and then hit the weekend. Let's see what else of interest here on the Twitter wire jumps out at me. Going back to the story about the Learfield Directors Cup standings, Terry tweets about USC finishing ahead of Clemson in rankings for best sports programs. I mean, really, when you think about it, and as portrayed in the Palmetto series as well, head-to-head, I mean, there's no argument that South Carolina had the better athletic year against Clemson, 10-5, and the comparable comparable sports that were counted. Clemson won the marquee sport of football and the marquee sport of baseball. USC won the marquee sport of men's basketball and the marquee sport of women's basketball. Yes, I said marquee sport of women's basketball. Fair and balanced here. No sexist pig am I. So, but then South Carolina, dominated in the other sports for the most part. So, football carries the water. I get that. And everybody seems to feel like you win football, you've won everything, but you got other athletes out there competing as well. Chad writes, I'll take the year Clemson had over USC in major sports any day. Played for 2 titles. They did. Soccer, men's soccer, and football. Clemson very good with their feet this year. Football and football did very well. Quacking Tiger says the dumbest sports ranking ever compiled. Talking about that one. Then he mentions Clemson was number 5 in the Capital Cup. Okay. Bo writes, when Furman hired Brett Hacker as a new baseball coach, wow, they run Ron to hire an assistant. About like when all that was wrong with football was Lamb. Bobby Lamb. Okay. I think that's pretty much it on Twitter. To the phones we go again. Wes in Florence. Hello, Wes. How are you? Welcome to Sports Talk.
What's up? One question.
Yeah.
And I'll hang up.
Uh-huh.
If Clemson gets everybody they are targeting,
they should go to the NFL. They should go to the NFL.
Yeah, anybody can beat the Cowboys, right? If they get everybody they're targeting, will this go down as the best class they've ever signed? I'll hang up. Thanks for taking my call.
Okay. So I guess you're talking 2017. Would this go down as the best class they've ever had? Well, I mean, I think you have to measure classes by how they produce once they get there. So how can you ever say that the group, of course, it's a series of classes that come together that make a team. I get that. But it's all about production when you get to school. But taking the question at face value and the projection for a particular class, would this be the Clemson's best class if they got everybody who they wanted? I mean, the 11 they have in the class right now are pretty spectacular across the board. They got the shiny parts and pieces at quarterback, running back, and receiver. They got the guys in the trenches on that offensive line. So they still have several more pieces to add. I would say with the quarterbacks they've gotten and the receivers they've gotten, if they finish up with, say, Malik Herring, if they were to get him, if they were to get Jamias Williams, I'm just thinking of some guys off the top of my head. If they were to get a Trey Shaw, if they were to get an Trey Smith, guys like that, if they got most of them, yeah, I'd have to say it would probably go down in terms of recruiting classes and expectations and projections as maybe their best ever, because it's a darn good looking class, no question. Thank you very much. He cannot do that. He cannot. Jerome, you know better than to call in the last I have to do the introduction. I just can't put him on the air without the introduction. So, and we'll have to go into the break after the introduction, so you'll have to hold on. So after the break, ladies and gentlemen, we will bring you the de facto mayor of the city of Charleston. This is going to drive everybody away, I know. The bad boy by the bay, the ninja of the night, the pontiff of the port city, the queen of the cowboy crybabies, and I have no and. What's a good and for Jerome tonight? Let's see. It's Charleston, it's summertime, and the official lifeguard for the Isle of Palms. He covers the entire island. He's a great swimmer. The official lifeguard for the Isle of Palms. Jerome, coming up in a minute if he holds on. Well, I can't think of a worse way to end the week than what we're about to do. So let's go to Jerome in Charleston. Hello, Jerome.
Hey, I just want to congratulate Tommy Buntcakes or Bushin or whatever he goes by now.
Who's this?
The man with the Tom Brady.
Oh.
Who's this? You know who he is. He was trying to, the guy's a colossal failure trying to get Kevin Durant to come to the Celtics. Are you out of your mind? Tom Brady as a recruiter?
Well, I mean,
you get to the professionals.
You pull out all stops. You know, you try to impress superstars with superstars, man. Beautiful people love beautiful people.
Yeah, I cheated with a guy that doesn't cheat. Oh yeah, that'll work, Mister. Sometimes I'm a Yankee and sometimes I'm a Red Sox. You know, I never know about that guy, man. What's he trying to pull?
When has he ever been a Yankee fan?
I saw him a couple of years ago in Yankee Stadium with a Yankees hat on, and then I'm turning the TV on one day, and he's in Fenway Park throwing out the first pitch of the Red Sox game.
Well,
what's up with that guy,
that
bro?
happens. He was probably dating, some hot babe from New York and was
he
at a
was
Yankee game.
married, Dan, by the way.
So?
Are you taking me into the inner workings of marriage, Phil? Because I'm not married, so I wouldn't know about stuff like that.
You're not married, Jerome? You have not found.
You mean married guys have girlfriends, Phil?
You have not found a woman yet?
Phil, you mean married guys have girlfriends?
That's what I've heard.
Okay. You bailed on that one out.
That's the rumor. That's the rumor.
Okay. By the way,
yes,
he's still your second favorite quarterback on your second favorite team because we know you're a Green Bay Packers fan, but you know you have much love for Tom Brady, right?
Listen, honestly, I'm a Celtics fan. I'm a Red Sox hater, and I'm ambivalent toward the Patriots. I love their, they do cheat, but they somehow manage to get away with it all the time. And
let me give you a piece of advice before you go.
And everybody lets them. Everybody lets them slide. Go ahead.
If you trade Chapman or Miller, make sure you trade them to the Rangers because I heard that their minor leagues and stockpile. They got a lot of talent, so make sure you trade them to one of them because you've been owning them the last few years. So hey, get them a good close and maybe they can win a few games in the late innings, unlike what they've been doing against the Yankees here lately.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping the Yankees aren't going to go on a wholesale, trade run here and start getting rid of people. I mean, I know we're 8 games back, but and it's the All-Star break, but there's still a chance. I mean, and I never give up on a season. I've seen teams. Who was that team a few years ago that ditched everybody? Well, I think it was the Marlins. Was it the Marlins? They ditched everybody. And then they got hot and they made a run with a bunch of the people they acquired that just kind of came together and played good baseball. So you never give up. At least I don't. Thank you, Jerome. Thank you, Carsonova. Have a great weekend. Thanks to everybody out there. Thank you to our affiliates for being with us. Have a great weekend. SEC Media Day starts Monday right here. We'll see you then.